TC, this is how you win. Parks Casino with an X. Parks Casino, where it's all happening. The casino, the sports book, the number one casino in Pennsylvania, the only casino and sports book I recommend. Why not catch a show with one of the upcoming headliners in the state-of-the-art Excite Center? You're wondering who's coming. All right. Jay Moore and Daryl Hammond from SNL, April 8th. The legendary Wayne Newton for one night only, August 26th. That's a hot show. Clint Black, Tracy Morgan, Foreigner, hot-blooded. Check it and see. And a lot of good grub along the way. The award-winning Parks Grill Steakhouse. Enjoy farm-to-table fare at the Liberty Bell Gastropub. How about an innovative menu over at the Bamboo Noodle House? And, of course, Chicky and Pete's. To purchase tickets and find a complete list of all the headliners, visit parkscasino.com. Got to be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter, where it continues to be a when, not if question relative to the former president and his charging arraignment probably next week. The Daily Mail seems to have the most insight in this. Trump will not be arraigned this week. Former president is expected to be indicted tomorrow. They published last night, which means today Donald Trump will likely be indicted on Wednesday, but won't appear before a judge in New York until next week. Can you imagine that bonfire of the vanities like scene? By the way, I spoke yesterday and talked about Danny Savalos' exclusive content for Smerconish.com, where we wondered, is he going to say cheese? And I said, and Ellie Honig was also a great guest on the program earlier this week, talking about the labyrinth of tunnels in the area where Trump would need to present himself, making the point that he could come in through the back door. He might not want to come in through the back door. He might want to stand out on the front steps.
He might just love the whole thing.
He might.
There's a possibility.
So, TC, the thumbnail for our YouTube conversation today has a photograph of former President Trump and Governor DeSantis, and it says, and I'm in the middle.
Yeah,
and
you are.
Says,
yeah, you are.
It says, it's on. And I said to the boys over at Creative Outfit who produce these things, put a question mark in there.
Oh.
Put a question mark in there relative to DeSantis and Trump.
Why did you have a question mark?
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Because people have been wondering when Ron DeSantis will fire back.
When do the gloves come off?
And the perception is
today
that it just happened.
It did.
That it just happened.
That's what I read.
So I spent $3 on the New York Post today so that you don't have to, because I got taken in by it. I knew very early this morning at Wawa that I was going to want to talk about this. And when I took the time to actually read what Piers Morgan wrote about his interview with Ron DeSantis, it's not what it's cracked up to be.
What?
Yeah, and I mean the headline, Ron hits Don. And note, in a Rupert Murdoch publication. I mean, it's no accident.
Wait, did he hit him or did he not hit him?
No.
Did he kind of hit him?
Did
he swat him?
You be the judge. So just by way of example, in terms of how this is getting picked up, every morning I read Mike Allen's Axios newsletter that comes out. Find it to be usually reliable. One big thing. So this is his lead item. DeSantis rips Trump, quote, a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And then here are the first two paragraphs. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took direct shots at the competence and character of Donald Trump, his likely rival for the 24 GOP nomination, after months of brushing off the former president's taunts. Quote, I think he got way too big for his britches, and I think he did a lot of damage. That's a quote. DeSantis said during an interview for Piers Morgan Uncensored on the streaming service Fox Nation. Okay, wait a minute, because in the actual piece, it says the following. You can see what a big spread this is if you're watching me, and I've got my copy all marked up.
Yeah, look at
that.
Okay.
So
I like it when you bring visual aids.
Thank you
to the YouTube
for
part.
your amusement.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So under the subheading WH's Fauci ouchie, I guess that's White House's Fauci ouchie. Now listen to this very carefully, because this is an eats, shoots, and leaves thing. Okay. When I asked DeSantis to cite specific differences between him and Trump, he said, quote, "Well, I think there's a few things. The approach to COVID was different. I would have fired somebody like Fauci. I think he got way too big for his britches, and I think he did a lot of damage." Go back to the Mike Allen summary, just one of many. DeSantis rips Trump, quote, "a lot of damage."
Whoa, he who?
He's talking about Fauci.
Yeah.
DeSantis is talking about Fauci, not Trump.
Yikes.
Yeah. So in each one of these instances, it's being
That's a really different headline.
Thank you, TC. Thank you. You can give me the $3.
Wow.
For the New York Post. I'm glad I bought it today.
Well, I need to give you $3 for all the headlines too that are pulling that and saying that it was DeSantis on Trump.
No. Piers Morgan Uncensored. It begins this way. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has finally taken the gloves off. He's finally taken the gloves off and launched a blistering attack on his former mentor, President Donald Trump. In an exclusive wide-ranging interview with me airing on Fox Nation's Piers Morgan Uncensored on Thursday, he said to, quote, "Stay tuned," about his widely expected announcement that he's running for president, and declared, "I have what it takes to be president and I can beat Biden. But it's what he said about Trump that will ignite a firestorm." I'm waiting for what did he say about Trump that's going to ignite a firestorm. So I skip further ahead. On Monday, Trump went nuts after DeSantis took a shot at him, blah, 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 the inferred moral censorious tone. DeSantis slammed Trump over his character failings, chaotic leadership style, and for his handling of the COVID pandemic, especially in keeping controversial health chief Dr. Anthony Fauci. Where are the explosive quotes in this? I mean, here's the way DeSantis distinguishes himself from the way Trump governs. Quote, "So the way we run government, I think, is no daily drama, focus on the big picture and put points on the board, and I think that's something that's very important." Is that like a takedown of Donald Trump? Now do you see why I asked the guys to put a question mark?
It sounds very measured. It
It's
sounds very political.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's all very measured.
Yeah.
But perception will now be reality, because let me tell you who I don't think will spend the $3 and actually read the Post.
No, he'll
Trump.
Truth Social it.
Instead, Trump is going to rely on everybody telling him.
Well, because that's what matters.
Yes, the perception
Right.
is that DeSantis has just gone, full on against Donald Trump,
Wow.
and it's just not the case. But it will be like a starting point for sure because of the perception, regardless of the reality.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, Ron DeSantis, can I say something to you?
Oh, good. Let's address him directly. Go ahead.
This is what you get when you only do interviews in friendly forums, okay? Because if you had come on with me the way I've invited you to be here, radio or television, I would have actually listened to your words and asked follow-up questions and would not have sought for sensationalistic purposes to then make it much bigger than it actually was. Yeah, that's the lesson, isn't it? I think so. I think so. Okay. Speaking of Murdoch, Fox, and all this conservative media, summary judgment. TC, the steps of a civil suit.
Okay.
In very
Here we
broad
go.
strokes.
Go ahead. Educate
Okay.
me.
You come to my office
Right.
and you are a potential defamation plaintiff.
Okay.
Someone has defamed you either through libel, written, slander,
verbal.
oral, and you convince me that there's a case here.
Okay.
I now initiate your action. So I file a complaint against whomever besmirched your reputation.
Okay.
And now the discovery process begins.
Right.
And the discovery process is the process where we're sharing information with the individual or entity that we're suing. So it could be in the form of a request for production of documents.
Okay.
We want to see the material on which they relied when they harmed your reputation. It could be in the form of written interrogatories where we ask questions and we want them to answer with specificity. And of course, it can also be in the form of sworn testimony, deposition testimony.
Okay.
It is, as I've so often said here on the radio, that it's akin to playing poker where you see the hand of the other side. All with a purpose of, if everybody knows what the other side is holding, settlements come about,
Right.
and very rarely do cases go to trial.
Okay.
At the end of the discovery process, either side can file for summary judgment.
Okay.
Normally, it's the defense.
Okay.
And this takes place in federal court or in state court where you're saying there's no genuine dispute as to fact here, and you're asking for the court to rule in your favor. Normally, it's the defense saying, Judge, throw this case out because they've not met their obligation, and nor can they. Sometimes cases are thrown out on summary judgment. It's rare that a plaintiff, in this case, me representing you, would file for summary judgment. In the Dominion case against Fox, both sides, discovery's over. We've heard about all the deposition testimony. Both sides have filed for summary judgment. And that is what was taking place yesterday in the Superior Court in Delaware and will continue today. It is the oral argument where both sides are trying to say to the judge, we are entitled to a summary judgment ruling in our favor.
And that's unusual.
It's unusual that a plaintiff would be asking for summary
get it.
judgment. Not unusual that a defendant would.
Sure.
Now, here's the other thing. In a summary judgment argument like this, we, the outsiders, because these are all public proceedings, we get a good insight into what's going on in this case. And summary judgment arguments are often a time when the court will cajole the parties to settle. So people are therefore reading the tea leaves as to what went on yesterday. For example, Oliver Darcy, it was clear, this is for reliable sources, it's clear that the judge was skeptical of some of the legal assertions being advanced by Fox News. At one point in the hearing, the judge said an argument deployed by the network's lawyers didn't, quote, seem to be intellectually honest. At another point, he wondered, how can you be fair if you are knowingly providing false information? So to read the accounts, I wasn't in the courtroom, but to read the accounts of those who were, the judge seems very skeptical of the defense being put forward by Fox News. And here's the question that I leave everybody with. Is this case going to settle? Because Dominion is looking for a big check. If the case doesn't settle, then within the next few months in Delaware, you're going to see all of these personalities that we've talked about who factor into this case. Tucker, Maria Bartiromo, Lou Dobbs, maybe Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch have to take the stand.
Oh, my.
I mean, hey, if Rupert is able to get married for the fifth time at age 96, I think, then surely he can come to Wilmington and he can
He's not
testify.
married yet. He's just engaged.
That is one court drama. Here's another court drama. I know you're paying some attention.
He's 92.
92. Okay. Fifth time.
Yeah.
Fifth
Fourth
time's
time.
the charm.
Fourth time. Fifth time.
Fifth time.
Fifth time.
Fifth time's the charm.
And Leslie Smith, age 66.
So that's my snapshot of what's going on in Dominion versus Fox News.
Yes.
There's another case playing itself out in Park City, Utah.
Yes, there is.
Sanderson v. Paltrow. What's that all about?
So this is a skiing crash, evidently, that was in 2016, that this man alleges, that Terry Sanderson alleges that Gwyneth Paltrow skied into him, causing serious injuries, and then left, abandoned him on the
Hit and
slopes.
run.
Yes, that was the original charge, was a hit and run. Now, this is really interesting. A couple things are interesting about this. One is that they were both skiing on a beginner run at Deer Valley.
Wow.
The second thing was that this is 7 years ago. The third thing that's interesting is that Sanderson, who is a retired optometrist, this is from NPR, among other places, first filed a lawsuit in 2019, 3 years after the collision. Since then, he has alleged that the accident left him with brain injury, 4 broken ribs, and emotional damage, and that Gwyneth Paltrow left the scene without giving him any contact. In the initial version of the suit, he sought $3.1 million in damages. But in May of 2022, so this time last year, the third district judge dismissed some of his claims and ruled that it was not a hit-and-run ski crash. So now the optometrist is seeking $300,000 in damages just from Paltrow. Originally, it was like Paltrow, her ski instructor. He was suing everybody. So now he's just suing her for $300,000. She's now countersued and said, no, he was skiing above me. He skied into me, and she's seeking $1 in like whatever they call it, damages, but just significant, not significant, and that each party wants the other to cover their legal costs.
I'm going to ask you a question you don't know the answer to, but I could get taken in by this one.
It's very interesting.
Is Court TV televising
I don't
this?
know the answer to that, but I know that Gwyneth Paltrow's
I have to
taking
take
the
a
stand.
look.
Her husband's taking the stands. The kids, Moses and Apple, are both taking the stand. Like, there's a lot going on.
Moses and Apple.
Yeah.
Moses and
there's
Apple.
There's a lot going on.
Let's get to the big story today.
Oh.
Can we please?
Is there a big story?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's the big story?
Jimmy Garoppolo has been offered free sex for life. For life. Now that he's playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, this courtesy of the Chicken Ranch. Aren't they charitable? Aren't they charitable gals?
The second I saw this headline, I knew that this was going to end up in your newsletter. The
How
second
could
I
it
saw
not?
it.
Las Vegas
Vegas.
Raiders star quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo has been known to be a ladies' man, and that remains no different in Sin City. Garoppolo, 31, signed a 3-year deal worth $67.5 million with the Raiders this NFL offseason after playing 6 seasons for the San Francisco 49ers. As the NFL draft approaches, the signal caller has gotten love from the marriage capital of the world. TMZ has reported, it has to be true.
It has to be true.
That veteran QB has received an offer of free sex for a lifetime from 2 Nevada brothel workers, Caitlin Bell and Alice Little of the Chicken Ranch. In a statement, Bell said he deserves free sex just for joining our team, but he gets free sex for life from us just because he's such a legit babe.
He is. There you go. Okay, thank you for that.
Alice,
a little bit of the Alex Murdaugh
oh yeah, please.
case, just to put this in here.
Yep.
The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division is now confirming that the death of Stephen Smith, this is the teenager who was found dead on the highway in 2015, friend of the Murdaughs, classmate of the Murdaughs. It was a hit and run. Speaking of Gwyneth Paltrow, it was supposed to be a hit and run. Now they're ruling it a homicide. They're ruling it a murder. So they've exhumed the body.
Buster released a statement last week saying he's had it. He's being defamed.
Yep. And that's not.
You know, I'm getting
had nothing to do with it.
I'm getting my Murdaugh documentaries confused because I watched them all. But the one that dealt with the death of Stephen Smith,
that was not the boat one.
Was not the boat one.
One was the boat one, and the other was Stephen Smith.
Well, it didn't. In the same way that I told you that I watched the special about Flight 23 and it didn't give me enough.
Yes.
Similarly, I didn't see enough of a connection in whatever documentary it is I'm referring to between Buster and Stephen Smith. I thought it was
literally just rumors.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Like maybe there's something there, but they didn't give me anything to believe that there was.
Interesting. Yeah.
I have to mention this.
Okay, say.
Alice wanted to fact check me and know, is this the way you wanted the headline written for the Smerconish.com newsletter today? Because I was very deliberate. I know it was odd.
Say it.
The way that it appears in the newsletter today is as follows. Reed, paren, R.I.P., Bradley, Frazier, Monroe, DeBuscher. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the starting 5 lineup for the 1970 New York Knickerbockers. And as I told somebody yesterday, Willis Reed has passed. That's why it's in the news.
Sure.
The legendary center of the New York Knicks. And there's a great story about the series against the Lakers in Game 7. And I have this ingrained in my memory. If you were to ask me, and I go to 76er games a couple of times a year. If you were to say to me, like right now, name a couple of 76ers currently, I would say, well, Joel Embiid. Right. James Harden. And then I'm going to
stop.
Yeah. But in my head,
that's amazing.
I've got Reed and Bill Bradley, who, of course, was the Princetonian and goes on to then play for, be a United States Senator, have a show here on POTUS.
Sure.
Walt Frazier, Clyde, Earl the Pearl Monroe, and Dave DeBuscher, even if I can't spell DeBuscher's name. They were the 5.
Come on.
In 1970, TC, I was only 8 years old. And yet I've got those 5 names.
That's why they're in
my head.
Of course.
Isn't it funny the way the memory works?
Phenomenal.
Like that. So I referenced the New York Post on the front with, Ron hits Don, but of course on the back, it's all about Willis Reed.
Wow.
It's all about Willis Reed.
That's really neat.
And Bill Bradley is quoted, he was the backbone of the team. He was the guy that took us to the first championship by his courage and by his unselfishness. And there's a photograph of Willis Reed warming up. And it says this: Willis Reed famously takes the court before Game 7 of the 1970 NBA Finals against the Lakers when Reed, who had missed Game 6 with a hip injury, limped out of the tunnel. The Garden erupted, and the Knicks were inspired and on their way to their first title. Willis Reed died yesterday at the age of 80.
Wow.
So there's that. All right. Anything else? We're done?
In a wonderful way.
We're done, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you are registering for the daily newsletter. I assume that you have by now. Please share it with a friend. Subscribe to the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. Also subscribe to this YouTube channel. Ring the bell so that you get alerts, and like it. Did you like what you just heard and watched?
Hit the thumbs up.
Then hit the thumbs up. Right now, hit the thumbs up. Thank you for that. See you tomorrow.